All right, so we've got a pile of financial news here, huh?
Right.
Eli Lilly, Telehealth, even ResMed. Looks like someone's been digging into the weight loss drug scene.
Right. Absolutely.
And good call, because this is way more interesting than just like watching stock tickers, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. This is one of those things where, on the surface, it seems like simple supply and demand,
Yeah.
with these weight loss drugs.
Right.
But it actually reveals a ton about how everything's kind of interconnected. You've got like, competitors and regulators and then just everyday people trying to figure out healthcare, all impacted by this at the same time.
Well, and you said it right, interconnected. So like the news this week was that Eli Lilly with Mounjaro and Zepbound, those are finally off the shortage list, which on the surface sounds like good news. But digging into these articles, like you said, it's not that simple.
No, it's not that simple. And it's such a perfect illustration of how one change can ripple outward in all these different directions, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, the shortage, it actually created this weird, unexpected boom for certain telehealth companies.
Right.
And this is because, pharmacies, they're allowed to create copies of drugs if there's a shortage.
Right. The compounded drugs that you hear about sometimes. But
Exactly.
honestly, I didn't even know that was a thing until this whole like weight loss drug craze kind of blew up.
Yeah. Well, so there's a whole process for it. Very, very tightly regulated, of course. But essentially what it does is it allows for more affordable versions of a drug to be made when the brand name stuff is scarce, And that's exactly where companies like, your Hims and Hers, your Rose, your Nooms, they saw an opportunity.
Oh, interesting.
Because demand was there. Demand was through the roof.
Yeah.
Eli Lilly couldn't meet it, so they jumped in with these cheaper compounded GLP-1s.
So it's almost like, I know, it's like the food trucks that showed up to the music festival when the main vendor runs out of hot dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's smart. But then what happens to their business now that the official supply's back?
That is the $1 billion question, right? I mean, the CEO of Noom, he actually estimated that over 1 million people got their GLP-1s this way.
Wow.
So if you suddenly cut them off, you're talking about a huge shock to the system.
Yeah, for both the companies and, more importantly, the patients, right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine being told that your prescription just got 8 times more expensive because you can no longer access this other version.
Exactly. Oof. And not to mention, like, insurance coverage for this stuff.
Right.
It's a whole other can of worms, right? So we're talking about, like, affordability issues slamming right into this regulatory change. It could leave a lot of people in a really, really tough spot.
And then isn't there like a health aspect to this as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Like suddenly taking people off of these GLP-1s could have real consequences, right?
Yeah.
Like what if they regain the weight that they lost or have new side effects from a different formulation?
All very, very real possibilities, yeah. And it brings up these questions of, how do we balance the demand for affordable healthcare with the potential risks and the ethical considerations, right, of a less regulated market, right? Was this aggressive price-focused marketing? Was that appropriate? Or did it overshadow some of these potential long-term concerns? So, yeah, it's a tangled web for sure.
Yeah. And speaking of competition, how is all of this shaking out for the companies like Novo Nordisk?
Right.
Because they're right there. They've got Wegovy and Ozempic, also GLP-1s. You'd think they'd be happy about this, right? Like less competition.
You would think so, but it's actually not that simple because what it does is it puts more pressure on them to address the kind of the elephant in the room, which is price. Remember when Senator Sanders grilled their CEO about the cost of these drugs?
Oh, yeah.
He was not happy.
He called them out for, I think the quote was, ripping us off while recording these record profits.
He did. And this whole situation with the compounded versions being so much cheaper, it throws fuel on that fire.
Right. Novo Nordisk, Eli Lilly, they argue that those prices are necessary to recoup the manufacturing, the research costs, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But when you have 1 million people wondering if they can even afford their meds anymore.
Right.
It definitely shifts the conversation, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got these telehealth companies kind of in a tight spot, big pharma under fire for their pricing, patients caught in the middle. But wait, there's one more article here and I don't quite get it. ResMed.
They make those sleep apnea machines. What's the connection to all this?
See, this is where it gets fascinating because it shows just how unpredictable some of these ripple effects can be, right? So initially, ResMed stock, It actually dipped when those GLP-1 drugs became popular.
Oh, interesting. So I guess the thinking was if people are losing weight, maybe that helps their sleep apnea. Maybe they don't need the CPAP machines as much anymore.
Exactly. That was the initial thought, yes. But it turns out that's not the whole story.
So people start taking these GLP-1s, they're seeing results, feeling good, and then maybe they finally address some of those other health issues they've been putting off.
Yeah, precisely. It's like this wave of health consciousness, right, being kind of triggered by this whole thing.
Hmm.
And it's changing the game for companies like ResMed because their data now shows that people on GLP-1s are actually more likely to start using those sleep apnea machines.
Wow. Talk about unintended consequences, right?
Right.
It makes you think, like, what other connections are we missing here? This whole thing has got to be impacting, like, the pharmacy benefit managers too, right? The PBMs.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they're the ones, like, behind the scenes negotiating all the drug prices, right?
Yeah.
And they've been under fire lately.
Huge time.
Yeah.
And you know that article you sent about CVS?
Yeah.
How it's
Yeah.
like one of the best performing stocks in the S&P 500,
Well,
even with all the scrutiny on PBMs. I mean, that just goes to show how powerful they are.
controversial. I mean, the FTC is going after them, right? For allegedly like jacking up insulin prices.
Mm.
And now here we are with this whole other class of drugs, these GLP-1s, that are facing these huge pricing pressures. Are the PBMs about to get caught in the crossfire again?
It's definitely possible, yeah. I mean, the whole debate around drug pricing transparency
Yeah.
and the role of PBMs, I mean, that's far from over. And this whole GLP-1 situation, it just throws another log on that fire.
Okay. So let me get this straight. We've got telehealth companies scrambling to adapt.
Yep.
We've got big pharma under fire for pricing.
Mm-hmm.
You've got patients who are kind of caught in the middle.
Right.
Sleep health companies
Right?
riding this like weird, unexpected wave.
Yeah.
And now PBMs, potentially, back in the hot seat.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
like that Spider-Man meme where everyone's pointing at each other.
Mhm. Yes, exactly. And that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive.
Right.
It's not enough to just know that, like, okay, the Eli Lilly shortage is over.
Right.
It's about understanding that chain reaction
Yeah.
that it sets off across all these different industries.
So for like someone like me who's trying to make sense of this, what's the takeaway? What's the signal in all this noise?
I think the biggest takeaway here is that we're seeing a real shift in how healthcare, particularly weight management, how it's accessed, how it's perceived. It's not just about, going to the doctor anymore. You've got technology, consumer demand, regulatory challenges all colliding. And, it's creating opportunities, but it's also creating some ethical dilemmas along the way.
Yeah. And it's happening so fast, like it's at warp speed.
Oh.
1 minute, everyone's scrambling for these drugs. The next minute, the rules of the game are completely different. It's a lot.
It is. And that
Yeah.
kind of volatility, that can be really unnerving for investors especially.
Yeah.
But it also highlights, I think, potential areas for growth and innovation.
So what you're saying is maybe ResMed isn't such a bad bet after all with this whole new wave of health-conscious consumers.
Potentially.
And maybe these telehealth companies, even with this like little setback, maybe they're onto something with this focus on affordability and accessibility.
These are all really good questions to consider because the weight loss market, it's changing so rapidly.
Yeah.
And the companies that can adapt, that can innovate, that can maybe even anticipate some of these ripple effects, I think, those are the ones that are going to thrive.
It's a good reminder that like behind all these stock tickers,
Yeah,
there's an actual human story.
absolutely.
And this one, it sounds like it's got a lot of chapters left to be written.
Oh, absolutely. This is just the beginning. I think the next few years are going to be really crucial in determining how this whole weight loss revolution unfolds and what it means for all of us.
It's funny. We started with like what seems like a pretty straightforward thing, right?
Yeah.
Like supply and demand of these weight loss drugs.
Right.
And now we're basically talking about like a societal shift
Yeah.
and how we even think about like weight and healthcare. The whole thing.
Well, and that's the thing about these deep dives, right? You start pulling on a thread
Totally.
and you realize, oh, wow, this is a whole tapestry
It's all connected.
of these interconnected trends. And it really seems like, in this case, like a single event like this drug shortage
Right.
can have these like massive cascading consequences. I mean, we're talking across industries, across even cultures. It's kind of wild.
And has me thinking, like, what happens NOW?
Yeah.
Like we talked about the current players, the immediate like fallout, all of that. But what happens when like a treatment becomes I don't know, like a cultural phenomena
Yeah.
almost, before any of the other stuff can catch up. I'm talking about the supply chain, the regulations, even just our like understanding of it.
That is the billion-dollar question. And I don't think anybody has the answer to that, right? Because at this point, it's not just about, okay, can we make more of these drugs?
Right.
It's how do you ensure equitable access for everybody who needs them, right?
Yeah.
Right.
You've got to navigate the ethics around pricing and marketing.
Right.
And frankly, I think we need to prepare
Yeah.
for the long-term health implications
Yeah.
of the society where like these medications are just commonplace.
Yeah. It's almost like we're building the plane while we're flying it.
Yes.
It's like we're trying to figure out who gets a seat, how much it's going to cost, all while making sure this thing doesn't fall out of the sky.
That is such a good analogy
Yeah.
because it really underscores why these conversations are important.
Right. Totally.
It's not enough to just skim the headlines.
Right.
You have to be willing to go deeper, to connect the dots, and to recognize that like the decisions that are made today in boardrooms, in courtrooms, I mean, these are going to shape the landscape of healthcare for years to come.
Yeah.
And that's why I love like geeking out on this stuff with you,
Yeah.
because it's not just about like memorizing a bunch of facts and figures. It's like understanding. So what? You know, like what are the implications of this?
Yeah.
What are the consequences?
Knowledge is only powerful when it's applied.
Okay.
So I'm curious, what are you going to do with all this insight that you've gained today? What are those connections you're going to make? What are the questions that you're going to keep exploring?
Well, I'm definitely adding ResMed to my watch list. That's for sure.
Okay.
I might need to like I don't know, brush up on my PBM knowledge because it seems like they're always kind of at the center of
For
this.
better or worse, yeah.
But I think more than anything, this is just a good reminder to stay curious, keep asking questions, and never underestimate the power of like a good ripple effect. So hey, thanks for joining me on this fascinating journey as always.
The pleasure was all mine. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.